Hello, hello. It is Stephanie, the Credit Repair Queen, and I want to welcome you to the Credit Camp, our 5-day challenge on fast tracking your credit scores from mediocre to magnificent. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Stephanie Lawrence. I am also known as the Credit Repair Queen. I've been in the finance industry for a little over 10 years, and I have helped thousands of people improve their credit scores so that they can achieve their financial goals of home ownership, a new car, credit cards, and just improving their overall quality of life. Credit has been a passion of mine for the past 10 years when I decided to start improving my own credit status. So I had my daughter and I wanted to purchase a home. And I thought that having a good, stable job with a good income was going to be enough to get me qualified. However, I was sadly mistaken when I got that denial letter and I was rejected for a home mortgage. Now, let me tell you, I was devastated. And, just like many of you, credit really runs the world and it is the gateway to achieving your financial goals in the world. So, receiving that rejection letter totally crushed my dreams, and I had to find a way to move past it. I was either going to just give up hope or I was going to do something about it. I chose to do something about it. So I decided to research everything there was to know about credit, and I decided that I was going to restore my own credit. I was going to figure out where to get my credit reports. I did know my score because the loan officer did let me know that I was at a 535. But I didn't know what information was on my credit reports. So I looked up, how to get my credit reports. I was entitled to a free one. So I did get a free credit report due to my denial. And I started to review all the information and noticed that there were things that did not belong on there. So after doing much research and after doing research, I decided to, get further training and investing into figuring out all there was to know about credit. And after, countless hours and weeks and months of training and research and educating myself about all there is to know about credit, I was able to improve my scores to an 810. So, after improving my own and helping friends and family members, I decided to help others as well. All right, so that is what I love to do. It is a passion of mine, and I hope that you're able to join us on this journey as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about me, and I just want to welcome you again, and let's get started on day one. Day one, I'm going to be going over a brief overview of the credit system, why credit is important, and then we're going to be going over how I break down items on a credit report to label them and analyze them for the next round, which will be disputing. Okay, so to follow along in this video, you should already have your credit reports in front of you. All right, so if you signed up for the challenge, you should have ordered your credit reports from annualcreditreport.com or freecreditreport.com or any other paid service where you can get a copy of your credit reports. You should have one from Experian, you should have one from Equifax, and you should have one from TransUnion. All right, so if you don't have a current paper copy printed out right now and ready to use, go ahead and pause the video right now to go ahead and retrieve them. Also, at any time, if you find the videos moving too fast, you can pause it just by clicking on it. Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you an overview of the credit system and introduce you to the techniques that I use to identify problems with your credit reports into different categories. Now, for this exercise, you're going to need something to write with because we are going to be labeling certain sections of your credit reports, and I prefer to use a colored marker because it's easier to find your marks later. Once this is done, I'm going to show you how to approach each item differently as a dispute in the videos that are to follow. So, In the past few years, I've helped thousands of clients reach 700 plus credit scores. And I've also used the exact same steps I'm about to show you to be able to call myself the credit repair queen and be the expert in being able to foster these results over and over again. So knowing what I'm about to share with you will make you realize why credit is so confusing to most people and why just hoping for the best score will never work. So these mega rich credit bureaus and banks make money off of you and I by keeping us in the dark about our credit and by jacking up the rates on loans when they decide that our credit score is too low. So here's the thing, you don't have to remain in the dark. And what I'm about to share with you is the key to improve your credit effectively. Okay, so we all know that having good credit is more important now than ever. Banks have tightened up lending guidelines, making it even more difficult to qualify for loans. And even employers are now requiring credit checks for jobs. Even credit cards are nearly impossible to get approved for with challenge credit. With the importance of good credit, it is vital that you know how to fix your own credit or how to find a good credit repair company to help you. Now, the main proven method of fixing credit is the process of credit repair. But a lot of people don't know what exactly is credit repair and how does it really work for them. All right, so credit repair is the process of disputing inaccurate negative items from your credit report. And from the action of disputing with the credit bureaus, they will either delete the item or update the item. Okay? And how the process works, it varies based on who is handling your credit disputing. Now, why is it that more people don't take action to improve their credit scores when they know they're suffering from poor credit and poor lifestyle that it brings? Why do you think that people don't exercise their right to fight back? Well, it's simply because the banks and the credit bureaus make it so difficult to understand the process. Now, remember, if the banks keep you in the dark, then they can charge you higher interest rates and make more profit for themselves. It can be impossible to improve your credit score when you lack the knowledge required to make the right choices. Now, I know growing up and when I was in college that I wasn't taught exactly how to keep a pristine credit profile. And we all made the mistakes of, when they were throwing credit cards at us that, we took them and, misused them because we really weren't taught how to manage them correctly. So again, when you don't know any better, you don't do what you're supposed to do. So it can almost be impossible to improve your credit score when you lack that knowledge of what exactly you're supposed to do. And this is one of the major reasons that you may still be struggling with your credit score even as you get older. Now, all three credit bureaus calculate your credit score based on rules known as FICO. You may have heard your credit score referred to as FICO score and have three FICO scores, one for each of the three credit bureaus. So you have one for Experian, you have a separate score for Equifax, and then another for TransUnion. However, they use all the same set of rules to come up with your score. But before you can improve your credit, it's important to know how your score is calculated. Now, there are 5 key factors that are used to determine your credit score. The first is your payment history, which accounts for 35% of your FICO score. Now, your payment history wants to know, basically, have you consistently paid your credit accounts on time? Late payments, collections, bankruptcies, and other negative items can severely hurt your credit score. Now, the second part of your score is the amounts that you owe. It's your credit utilization. So a lot of people suggest that 30% is the magic number to have your credit balances at. FICO scores look at the amounts you owe on all of your accounts, the number of accounts with balances, and how much of your available credit you're using. Obviously, the more you owe compared to your credit limit, the lower your score will be. So you want to be sure that you're really in a healthy mark to benefit from the better scores. I usually suggest my clients take around 20% just to be extra cautious so that they can benefit from better credit scores. However, 30% is just fine. You're still in the safe zone. So should you have a month where you just couldn't get the balance down quite to 20%, 30% is fine as well. But you want to be sure that you consistently maintain that. Okay? The third part is going to be the length of credit history. This accounts for 15% of your FICO score. All right, so the longer credit history you have, the higher your credit scores. But please keep in mind, you can still have a high score with a short credit history if the rest of your credit report is good. I have plenty of clients who, are just starting out, they're starting to rebuild their credit, and it's, shorter than some others, but they still have achieved 700 credit scores with a shorter credit history. So it's very much possible. The fourth key factor is new credit. That accounts for 10% of your FICO score. So you want to be sure that you are managing how often you're applying for new credit. If you recently applied for or opened new credit accounts, your credit score will weigh this fact against the rest of your credit history. So the more often that you're applying for credit, the more desperate you look, all right? And so they weigh that in your credit score as well. 5, your credit mix, that accounts for 10% of your FICO score as well. All right, so they want to be sure that you know how to manage various types of accounts. All right, they want to know you know how to manage a credit card and a mortgage and an auto loan and even a personal line of credit so that you know how to manage revolving accounts, being sure that you're going to make on-time payments on your mortgage account every month, and that'll let them know how responsible you are and the likelihood of you being late on a new account or not. All right? So it's good to maintain an average of 2 credit cards for every 1 installment loan on your credit report. That shows them that you have a very good credit mix. All right, so you want to keep that in mind when you're taking a look at your credit reports. All right? Okay, and finally, your credit scores can range from anywhere between 350 and 850. And in today's world, anyone with a 720 or above gets to enjoy the benefits of great interest rates on loans and access to credit lines. So ultimately, 700 and above is the ultimate goal, all right? Some people think that 800 is the key to everything. However, a person with 720 is going to get the same benefits as someone with 800. It's as simple as that. Anywhere between 720 and above is going to get the same benefits and the same interest rates as someone with an 800. So 720 is the magic number, and that is considered extremely credit healthy. So now that we have that covered, we're almost ready to get down to business. But let me mention something before we continue. You should always, always, always tell the truth when communicating with the credit bureaus and any company that reports to them. I'm sure there's going to be some bad advice out there that you may have heard that suggests that lying about your items on your credit report is going to be helpful. So, for example, they may suggest writing a letter saying that an item on your credit report is not yours, or you've never had that account, something along those lines. But the tactics that we use are always going to be truthful so that they are valid disputes. All right, so here are the 3 truthful communication tactics that we use day in and day out. So the first is going to be just a simple polite request. The second is going to be requests for information. This is going to be very important. And then the third are going to be legal demands. All right, so these are going to come in handy for deletions that are not going to pop back up out of nowhere because it was not a valid dispute. All right, so you want to be sure that you have a valid dispute when you're disputing with the credit bureaus. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. So first things first, you want to identify every error you can possibly find on your credit report, starting with your personal information. So it's going to be in that very first top page of your credit report. For TransUnion, it's going to be on the first page at the very top. Experian usually has theirs at the back, about the last 2 pages of your credit report, and Equifax should be on the front top page as well. So You may have to flip through Experian to find your personal information, but the other two should be at the very front and at the very top of the first page. All right? So think about this. Your credit reports are bombarded with errors. Essentially, about 82% of credit reports contain errors of some type. So it's safe to assume that you fall into that category as well. All right? We all do. And a great way to look at this is to look for every mistake, right? From little to big. So we're going to be looking for aliases, any misspellings of your name. I mean, even if they missed one letter, it makes a huge difference. It could be a matter of mixing someone else up with your profile. All right? Any old addresses you're no longer associated with, we need to get rid of those. Okay? A wrong date of birth, that's happened. A wrong social security number, that has happened. I've seen that. Incorrect balances, incorrect limits, incorrect payment activity dates, incorrect account numbers. So look for all inaccuracies. But again, don't forget to take a look at your personal information. Most people don't even look at this part of their credit report. And there's so many mistakes in that part. So you want to be sure that we find everything. Now remember, errors contribute to the decrease in your score. So you want to have them all disputed and then put the burden of proof on the credit bureaus to prove that this information is in fact accurate. And you'll find that most of it isn't if you know that it isn't true. All right, so this is going to set you up for the second part of the process. Now, these tactics are to deal with negative items on your credit report that can come from one of the following sources. The first source is going to be the original creditor. All right, original creditors are businesses that actually grant you credit. So for example, it may be Chase Mortgage, Capital One Auto Finance, American Express, or even Home Depot. So these are examples of original creditors who have granted you credit. Second is a collection agency. I'm sure you all have heard of a collection agency who have your number on speed dial. They call you in the morning, they call you in the evening, they call you at night during dinner, they call your cell phone, they call you at work, all right? And you may have blocked them a time or two or just dread seeing that number show up on your caller ID, all right? Now, these are businesses that are also known as debt collectors. And they try to collect on debt in place of the original creditors if you don't pay as agreed. Now, the third is the credit bureaus, the infamous three. They're also known as consumer reporting agencies. Now, these are businesses that maintain your credit reports, and they're also referred to as data furnishers. Now, there are several laws that you should know for reference. Now, I'm going to provide you with those laws so that you can download them if you want to, but you don't have to know them backwards and forwards. You don't even have to read through all of them, because honestly, it would take a while to read through all of them on your own, but you really don't have to. I'm going to be explaining the important parts from each of them and show you how to use the information to improve your credit scores. So let's go over the first law. The best law ever created to protect you as the consumer is the Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA. This law basically tells the credit bureaus what they can and cannot do. And it ensures that the consumers can access their credit reports once every 12 months for free. And you have the right to inquire into your credit report. There's no inquiry when you are checking your own personal credit report, all right? That does not count against you. It also regulates who is allowed to acquire a consumer's report with a permissible purpose. This law also limits how long information can be reported and details how the credit bureaus must handle disputes. It's this last part that we will use to our advantage when we're going through the dispute process. All right, the next law is the Fair Credit Billing Act, FCBA. Now, this is part of the larger Truth in Lending Act, which basically tells lenders or the original creditors what they are allowed to do. FCBA also requires creditors to bill correctly and completely, and it also provides you with certain rights related to this. This is something else that we'll also be going over in a later video. And these rights provides the basis for very specific types of dispute letters that we're going to be utilizing. All right, now the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, also known as the FDCPA. This law tells debt collectors what they can and cannot do. Now, before this law went into effect, collection agencies will do all kinds of crazy stuff to try and collect a debt. Now they're held to certain behavioral standards. So for example, they cannot harass you, they cannot call you past 9 o'clock p.m., all right? They can't call you before a certain time in the morning either, all right? They are not allowed to threaten you, all right? So they are definitely held to some standards, and we will go over that. And there are certain violations that you can implement if they do not follow those standards. And we will use this against them with a powerful tactic called debt validation. This involves your right as a consumer to request further information regarding an alleged debt. All right, so to review, there are 3 main sources of credit report problems. These are the companies that we must communicate with for an improved score. They are the consumer reporting agencies, also known as the credit bureaus, the original creditors, and the collection agencies. So we're going to be communicating to them along with the help of your rights as a consumer according to the 3 official laws that we went over. Now, these laws are the FCRA, the FCBA, and the FDCPA. Now, please don't get all up in arms, because don't worry, you do not need to know these in detail. And I know it's going to be a little bit confusing right now, but not to worry. It'll become much, much clearer as we go along in the videos. I'm going to be walking you step by step and going through exactly what to do for each case. So don't worry, all right? So before we get started marking up your report, I want to let you in on a little secret. I'm going to share with you the reason that this stuff works. And it may not be exactly what you might think. The request that you'll make in your effort to improve your score will work for one very simple reason. These businesses simply do not want to fool with your lawful and truthful request for information, right? I mean, do they really want to be bombarded with millions and millions and millions of paperwork, just, trying to validate truthful requests that they know, they probably don't even have the documentation to prove? So basically, you'll be asking them to document that they complied with the law. And they're required to provide this to you based on the laws that we covered. Remember those laws that I told you that you didn't have to know about? Yeah, that's all within those. All right, you want to keep in mind that the credit bureaus, collection agencies, and your original creditors are out to make money just like any other business. They're all for-profit businesses. They don't make money by taking a bunch of time to comply with requests that they view as a nuisance. All right, but guess what? It's easier for them to just delete items from your credit report than deal with providing you documentation that is required by law when you ask for it. It's too much, all right? So I hope that explains a little bit about how this is all going to work. Now it's time to get started marking up that report. Are you ready? Here are the instructions. So we're going to take it a little slower so that you can really, really grasp how we're going to mark up this report. All right, so get your reports right and ready. All right, and you're going to go through all 3 reports. Remember, they're all going to have different information, so you want to be sure you're going through them separately. All right, so look at your report, and you're going to find any item where you were never more than 30 days late. So any account where you were 30 days late, you want to take your marker and write goodwill / update. Again, any account that you are 30 days late, no more than 30 days late though, you're going to write goodwill / update next to each of those. Now don't worry if this doesn't make sense right now. I'm going to explain later. But for right now, just write goodwill / update next to each of the 30-day late payments accounts. Okay. Now go through the reports a second time. Now we're going to be looking for items where you were never late more than 60 days. These are all 60-day late payment accounts. Next to these, you're going to write goodwill or FDCPA / update. Again, any account where you were no more than 60 days late. you're going to write Goodwill or FDCPA/update. Now remember, you have to go through all 3 reports and do this now. So it may take a while, but you can go through Experian, right? Now go through Equifax and then go through TransUnion. Okay, so anything with a 60-day late, write Goodwill / or FDCPA/update. All right, so next you need to label the worst items, which are anywhere from 90 to 180 days late, but they did not enter collections or charge-off status. Now let's go back over this again. 90 to 180 days late, but did not enter collection or charge-off status. Mark these items as FCBA/delete. FCBA/delete. All right. Remember, these are accounts that did not go into collection, so they're not with the collection agency, and they're not in charge-off status. Just 90 to 180 days late. FCBA/delete. All right, now go over your credit report now one more time. Now we're going to be looking for items that have entered collections or charge-off status. Now, your Equifax report may not say charge-off. It will probably say R9 or I9. So look at the label. There is a key on your credit report that will show you what those mean. So look for that key on your Equifax credit report. But TransUnion and Experian should tell you if it's a charge-off. All right. So if any of these items were placed by a third-party debt collector like ABC Collection Company, XYZ Collection Company, as opposed to Bank of America, which is the actual creditor, for instance, then mark these with the word validation/delete. Validation/delete. Again, these are accounts placed with an actual collection company. Most of them have the word collection in it, so you'll know it's with a collection agency. You're going to be marking these items validation/delete. All right. On the other hand, if the charge-off was placed there by an original creditor, okay, original creditor being the bank or dealership, whoever issued the credit to begin with, that's the original creditor, then you're going to mark it OC validation/delete. OC validation/delete. So the collection agency is going to be validation/delete. The charge off by the original creditor is going to be OC validation/delete. All right, got that? All right, so that's it for now. We now have a plan in place to take action. Okay. So with the next video, I'm going to be explaining to you the process you need to take in order to deal with these items marked Goodwill. So these are going to be the 30-day late payment items. All right, remember the 30-day late payment items were marked as Goodwill. We're going to be going over Goodwill request letters. All right, so you're well on your way to a higher credit score, and the next videos to come will follow. The next videos to follow will show you what to do next. But they assume that you've already done the work covered in this video. Don't forget that, all right? So you cannot skip this part. Everything in this part must have been completed in order for you to move on to the next video, or it will not make any sense, all right? So please be sure to do the work, spend some time, go through all 3 credit reports, mark them up. Remember, first, we're going to be marking up the personal information section. So look for any aliases, any misspellings of your name, incorrect date of birth, incorrect social security number, any old addresses, any invalid addresses that you're no longer associated with. We want to remove those as well. All right. So anything of those nature, even if you have wrong employment status on there, if there was a company you never worked with on there, we want to include that in the dispute letter. Anything inaccurate you want to identify. All right. So sometimes there are inaccurate employment information on your credit report. So again, that will be in the personal information section of your credit report. Then you're going to move on to marking up the reports as we discussed. All right, so from 30-day late payments to 60-day late payments to 90 to 180-day late payments. All right, then move on to collections and charge-offs. All right, So good luck marking up the report. We'll see you on the next video, and cheers to financial freedom. See you soon.